Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will study the hormones of pancreas, and particularly we are going to talk about insulin and glucagon. Insulin and glucagon, which are peptide hormones. As you know, these are important for the regulation of metabolism. Particularly, they regulate the blood glucose as well as other macromolecules such as proteins and lipids. Now, from where do the insulin and glucagon come from? For this understanding, we will see the role of pancreas, that how the pancreas is producing these two important hormones in the body. Pancreas secrete digestive enzymes to aid in the digestion as well. So basically pancreas is consisting of one part which is exocrine in nature and the another part is endocrine in nature. So when the pancreas serve as exocrine, so they secrete digestive enzymes for the digestion of the macromolecules like proteins, lipids and carbohydrates, and these enzymes are secreted through pancreatic duct into the duodenum. As you know, the exocrine means something is moving through the duct. However, for the endocrine nature of the cells, they secrete their secretions through the interstitial space into the blood. So the digestive enzymes which are secreted by the pancreas are through the ductal system, and these are directly entered into the duodenum. Another important role of pancreas that we are going to looking at is secretion of two hormones that I already mentioned, insulin and glucagon, into the blood stream. These hormones keep the metabolic homeostasis. Pancreas contain, the exocrine producing cells which form the pancreatic acini. Here in the picture you can see there is pancreatic acini. These cells synthesize and secrete digestive enzymes which then enter into pancreatic duct to reach up to duodenum. Our interest is not in this exocrine pancreas. I would like to show you that these flower-like structures are basically representing you the exocrine portion of the pancreas, and these cells are known as pancreatic acini. But our interest is the center part, which is known as islets of Langerhans. This the hormones are secreted by different types of cells, and these cells, when come together, they form a cluster around the pancreas. These clusters are known as islets of Langerhans. So basically the islets contain hormone producing cells, different types of hormone producing cells. There are many types of hormone producing cells, such as alpha cells which produce glucagon, beta cells which produce insulin and amylin, delta cells produce somatostatin, and P cells secrete pancreatic polypeptide. You may not find that P cell, but these P cells are also present, and they secrete pancreatic polypeptide. Now come to the alpha cells which secrete okay, first of all we will have a look on the delta cells. Basically the delta cells are you can also see here, you can see 1 2 3, only few cells are the delta cells which are secreting somatostatin. So basically they are making up only 10% of all hormone producing cells, and as I told you that they are secreting somatostatin, and the role of somatostatin is basically to regulate the secretion of other pancreatic hormones. If we see the beta cells are about 60%. Here I can show you. In these gray color cells are representing the beta cells, so they are in the majority and they are making up about 60% of all hormone producing cells. Basically they secrete amylin. Amylin is to produce for the gastric to control the gastric motility basically, and amylin slow down the gastric empty from the stomach into the duodenum. So their role is basically in that part, and basically they are contributing in the mobility of the food in the GIT. Now come to the second secretion from the beta cell is insulin, and you know this is the most important with respect to the regulation of metabolism. Its role is to regulate the macromolecules, and you know the macromolecules are protein, fats and carbohydrates. And then come to the alpha cells. Alpha cells are making about 25% of hormone secreting cells in the islets of Langerhans. Alpha cells secrete glucagon, and they regulate the macromolecules or simply metabolism. Now you will be thinking that what is the difference that alpha cells secreting glucagon, it is also regulating the macromolecules, the regulation of macromolecules and metabolism, and beta cells secrete insulin, which is also doing the same thing, but both are not same. You know, one helps in the uptake of macromolecules into the cell, whereas other promote the breakdown of the macromolecules. That is, one molecule, one hormone is participating in catalytic activity, and another one is promote the storage of the macromolecules into the cell. So this is the basic overview of the pancreas and its cells. And now we will proceed further. Insulin, first of all we will have a look. You know, the main topic of our today's lecture is insulin. So first of all we will have a look how the insulin is synthesized and the structure about the insulin. So natural insulin is a polypeptide in nature and synthesized from the pre-proinsulin. Two amino acid chains connected by disulfide bonds. Here you can see there are two chains. This is the alpha chain, this is the beta chain, and in the insulin, this is the proinsulin. In the proinsulin we will have 1, 2 and 3 chains, but in the insulin we find out that we have two chains, this one and this one. The lower part is basically making this part, and upper part is like C peptide. So you just have to remember that insulin has two amino acid chains connected by disulfide bonds, and the two polypeptide chains are basically a chain with the 21 amino acid, right? And this is the chain with 21 amino acid, and a chain with 30 amino acid. So basically these two are making the insulin. So basically what happened, first of all there is a proinsulin which has 3 chains, like this one, C chain, and then A chain and B chain. But in the second stage, this proinsulin is converted to insulin, and the final insulin have two chains, a chain with 21 amino acid and another chain with 30 amino acid. So what happened actually, there is translation of insulin RNA by ribosomes that form pre-proinsulin. Before this form, we have another type, which is basically because of the translation of the insulin RNA. And I hope you know what is translation of the any substance of the RNA by the ribosome. So basically here in this case we have translation of insulin RNA by ribosome to form the pre-proinsulin. And pre-proinsulin is cleaved. Cleaved means breakdown into in the endoplasmic reticulum. This is the cell organelles. So here endoplasmic reticulum, there is breakdown of pre-proinsulin, which is then converted to proinsulin. This one. And then this proinsulin is further processed or cleaved into smaller size insulin and C peptide. This is the C peptide and this is insulin. So basically it was initially pre-proinsulin, which is cleaved or breakdown into proinsulin, and then proinsulin is further processed and it is finally forming the insulin and C peptide. Now we have the concern with, okay, we have made the insulin. Now how the insulin will be released from the cells. So I hope you remember the cells which are producing the insulin. Beta cells are producing and secreting the insulin. So primary controller for the insulin release is the increased blood glucose concentration. Whenever there is increased blood concentration for the glucose, it will serve as the stimulator to release of the insulin. So beta cells are the glucose transporters. Basically this is the glucose transports that will allow the glucose GLUT transporter. This is basically the receptor also. So it will allow the entrance of the glucose into the cell, which is of course is in high concentration. So beta cells have the glucose transporters allow the influx of the glucose proportional to the blood glucose concentration. Insulin containing vesicles fuse with the cell membrane and secrete by exocytosis. Okay, I will explain you the whole cycle what happened. Initially consider that we have a case that in which there is increased glucose in the blood. Of course after taking diet, the glucose level in the blood will be increased. So what will happen, a huge quantity of glucose can be entered into the beta cell through GLUT transporter, that is glucose transporter, and inside the cell there is increased glycolysis and citric acid cycle. Glycolysis and citric acid cycle. As a result, what happened, there is production of ATP. This ATP will block or close the potassium channels, because you know in the cells you must have studied the membrane potentials, that potassium have to move outside, and due to the movement of the potassium outside, the negativity inside the cell will be decreased. But here what will happen, due to the glycolysis and citric acid cycle, there is production of ATP. This ATP will block the channel for the potassium. This potassium ATP channel is closed. Now what will happen, because the potassium is not moving outside, the cell become depolarized, that is it becomes positive. Now what will happen, due to this positivity, a threshold will reach that will cause the opening of calcium channels. When the calcium channels become open, they will allow the entry of the calcium into the cell, and when the calcium enter, trigger the exocytosis and insulin is secreted. This is the same mechanism we have observed during the nerve action potentials, that the calcium will enter into the cell and it will allow the acetylcholine receptors to secrete their material outside the nerve cell. So similarly, here what we will observe that when the calcium will enter, it will allow the exocytosis, that is the movement of substance outside the cell, exocytosis. So insulin, which is packed into the vesicles, it will move outside the cell, and it will come into the interstitial space. From the interstitial space, it will enter into the bloodstream, and it will through the blood it will reach to the target organs and the cells of the whole body. Almost all body has the receptors for the insulin, almost all the cells. So here we will see activation of target cell receptor by insulin. Means when the insulin move towards the target cell, what will happen? Basically, the receptor of the insulin has 2 alpha and 2 beta subunits. So this is the alpha. These are the 2 alpha subunits which are basically located outside the membrane, which will be bind with the insulin. When insulin come, it will bind to these 2 alpha subunits of the insulin receptors, and the other subunit is the beta subunit, which is partially outside and partially inside. This is known as protrude into the cytoplasm. So half of the part is inside, which is submerged into the cytoplasm. So when the insulin attached with the alpha subunit, there is some changes in the beta subunit as always. So this will cause some changes inside the cell. Tyrosine kinase activity will be increased, and insulin receptor substrate and phosphorylation of enzyme will be taking place because of the tyrosine kinase activity. So what will happen next? These are the glucose transport. So due to the tyrosine kinase activity, due to the on the receptor of the insulin, we actually at this point we are not talking about the pancreatic cells, because already the insulin has been synthesized. Now we are talking about that when the insulin will reach here, then what will happen? So when the insulin bind to the alpha subunit of the insulin receptor, there will be conformational change in the beta subunit, and it will lead to tyrosine kinase activity that will lead to open the glucose transport channel. So as a result, what will happen? Glucose will enter inside the cell, because there is high level of glucose into the blood. So it has to be reached, it has to be entered into the cell, and inside the cell what will happen? There will be protein synthesis, fat synthesis, glycogen synthesis, growth and gene expression. Basically insulin has these actions. One is to allow the glucose to enter into the cell, right? Another one is the protein synthesis, fat synthesis, glycogen synthesis, and growth and gene expression. So these are the main action of the insulin when they are attached with the insulin receptor. Now we will have a brief look on the metabolic effects of the insulin. When there is increased uptake of glucose inside the cell, except the brain, retina, germinal epithelium and gonads, this is due to the presence of insulin. If the insulin is not present, the uptake of glucose is not possible inside the cell. Basically you can take the example of lock and key. Without the key you cannot open the lock. So you can consider that insulin is served as a key. Insulin will serve as a key for the glucose to enter inside the cell. Now you must be thinking why it is important that glucose must be enter into the cell, why it is important that glucose must be stored into the cell. Basically, if the glucose remain high into the blood vessels, as you can see in the diabetic patients, it can lead to a lot of diseases, microvascular diseases and macrovascular diseases, and neuropathy and nephropathy, all these are the microvascular complications, and high level diseases like myocardial infarction, stroke, all these are considered as the macrovascular complications. So basically, this is important that there will be a limit of glucose into the blood so that it will not damage your blood vessels as well as the nerve cells. So here we observe that what is the insulin is doing. First of all, consider that there is a rise in the blood sugar. Okay, we can have an opposite effect. Basically, here is a high blood sugar. High blood sugar promote the insulin release. Okay, high blood sugar promote the insulin release from pancreas, and the beta cells of the pancreas are releasing the insulin. Now this insulin, which is released by the beta cells, is now, this insulin will now act on the tissue cells so that it will stimulate the glucose uptake from the blood. Basically, in the blood there is high level of glucose, and due to when this blood passes nearby the pancreatic beta cells, they sense that there is high level of glucose into the blood, so they will release the insulin. What the insulin will do, insulin will stimulate the glucose uptake from the blood, so of course there will be decrease in the concentration of glucose into the blood, and then it will also act on the tissue cells, means muscle cells. So in the tissue cells, what the insulin will do, insulin will again increases the uptake of glucose from the blood into the cell, so that this glucose can be converted into different shapes and stored into the different tissues. So basically, the insulin target is to lower the blood sugar. Another target of the insulin is the liver. In the liver, it stimulates glycogen formation, and the glycogen formation is basically the conversion of glucose into glycogen. So what the glucose which is present in the high concentration into the blood, when passes through the pancreas, causes the release of the insulin. This insulin will act on the liver and convert the glucose into glycogen, and glycogen will be saved in the liver. Now we can have another hormone, glucagon, right? So the effect is something different when this is opposite. When there is lower blood sugar, this glucagon will be released from the alpha cells, and it will act whenever there is low blood sugar, glucagon will be released and it will act on the liver, and now the glucagon will convert the glycogen into glucose, so that glucose will enter into the blood, because glucagon is always released when there is low blood sugar. So always remember, insulin is secreted when there is high blood sugar, and glucagon is secreted when there is low blood sugar. So this glucagon will act in the liver and causes the glycogen to convert into glucose. As a result, the blood in the blood, the glucose level will be increased. If we see stepwise the effect of insulin on the carbohydrate metabolism, insulin promote muscle glucose uptake. That is, I already told you that in the different tissues there are glucose receptors. In the muscle cells, in the skeletal muscles, we have GLUT4 receptor, through which the glucose will enter into the cell and then convert it to the glycogen in the presence of insulin. Muscle use glucose under two conditions: during exercise and after a meal, when insulin levels are light. Glucose is stored in the form of muscle glycogen. So this may be asked in your question, that glucose is stored in the muscle cells in which form. So it will be stored in the glycogen form. And who is responsible for the storage of the glucose in the form of glycogen? It is insulin that is converting the glucose into glycogen in the muscle cells. And then we can have insulin on this is a continuation. Insulin promote liver uptake, storage and use of glucose. What the insulin will do in the liver? It will promote glycogenesis, means genesis means formation. So glycogenesis promote the formation of glycogen from glucose to glycogen. So we have a high quantity of glucose that will be converted to glycogen, which is a larger molecule, and then it will store into the liver, and whenever it is needed it will be again converted to glucose. And the hormone responsible to convert the glycogen to the glucose is the glucagon. So the insulin is basically converting the glucose into glycogen, and the process is known as glycogenesis. And then insulin has another effect, is inhibit the gluconeogenesis, means it will not allow to convert the glucose storage into the glucose form. So it will inhibit the gluconeogenesis, and it also convert the glucose into fatty acids. So sometimes, because of in most of the cases we observe that in the diabetic patients there is fatty liver, and this is because of the glucose is converting into the fatty acids. And then effect of insulin on fat metabolism. Insulin promote the fat synthesis and storage. It function as a fat sparer. It not only, insulin is not only storing the glucose, but it also store the fat. So excess carbohydrates are converted into fatty acids in the liver and transported in VLDL and stored in the adipose cells. It inhibits lipolysis by inhibiting the hormone sensitive lipase. Yes. What happened if the lipolysis is not inhibited? Of course, there will be more formation of glucose. Lipolysis means to convert the glucose into the lipids. So lipolysis means the breakdown of the fat, and if there is a breakdown of the fat, more sugar will be released. So we want to inhibit the lipolysis, and this is basic under the control of insulin. Then come to the effect of insulin on protein metabolism. Insulin stimulates amino acid uptake and protein synthesis in the muscle and inhibit proteolysis. In diabetes mellitus, net loss of proteins occur. In addition to this, stimulate the transport of amino acids in the cell, inhibit the catabolism of protein muscles, that is breakdown of muscle is reduced in the presence of insulin. And if insulin is not present, just like in the diabetic patients, or it is in the less quantity, there will be a muscle loss, in the protein loss. So the insulin has the ability to inhibit the catabolism, the breakdown of the proteins. It also inhibits the gluconeogenesis in the liver. So insulin will try to store the glucose in different parts such as liver. However, increased translation on the messenger RNA, thus forming new proteins, increases the rate of transcription of selecting DNA sequences. Now there are some factors that can increase or decrease the insulin secretion. Increase insulin secretion. Increase blood glucose. Of course, whenever there is high blood glucose, it will lead to increase in the insulin secretion. Increase blood free fatty acid. We have already discussed all these things in the previous slides. Increase blood amino acids, GIT hormones, glucagon, growth hormone, parasympathetic stimulation is also can be taken place under the influence of insulin or parasympathetic stimulation, beta adrenergic stimulation. All these factors contributing in the insulin secretion basically. And what are the factors that are decreasing the insulin secretion? Decreased blood glucose, of course, fasting, somatostatin, because we have already discussed that somatostatin is regulating the insulin and the glucagon. So somatostatin is regulatory here, as well as alpha adrenergic activity is decreased, causes the decrease in the insulin secretion, and leptin also. Control of insulin secretion. Increased blood glucose stimulate insulin secretion. Increased blood glucose stimulate the insulin secretion. Concentration rises almost 10 folds within 3 to 5 minutes after acute elevation of blood glucose. Means just after having a diet in which we have of course macromolecules, carbohydrate, proteins and fats. Within 3 to 5 minutes, acute elevation of blood glucose is observed. After 15 minutes, insulin secretion rises a second time and reaches to the new plateau 2 to 3 hours. Release of preformed insulin also occur because of increased blood glucose, and activation of enzyme system also take place. Now come to the glucagon, which is another hormone secreted by the pancreas, but in the other cells like alpha cells. So hormone secreted by the alpha cells is known as glucagon. Its action is opposite to that of the insulin, and it also called as hyperglycemic hormone. Remember, the glucagon is also known as hyperglycemic hormone. In this picture, what we are going to see, we see that there is a balance. When the glucose level is 4 to 6 millimole, then in that case we are saying that this is the normal concentration or the balanced state. Now take an example from here. If the blood glucose level is decreased, what will happen? The pancreas will sense that the blood glucose level is decreased. Now pancreas will release glucagon. What the glucagon will do? Glucagon will start glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. So these two phenomena will lead to the production of glucose, and blood glucose level will reach to the normal level. Now if this blood glucose level is above the normal, then what will happen? Just like after eating there is a high glucose concentration. If it is above the normal, then pancreas will release insulin, right? And its insulin has effects we have already discussed: glucose uptake and glycogenesis and gluconeogenesis. Now here you will observe there is a minor difference in the terms. Glycogenesis, genesis means banna, to be manufactured, to be prepared, to be synthesized, and glycolysis, glycogenolysis, lysis means breakdown, and gluconeogenesis is another term that can also lead to the increase in the blood glucose. So basically the first part where the insulin is released is the main hormone which is responsible for the release of insulin is the high level of glucose, and glucagon is released under the influence of low blood glucose. Now come to the effect of glucagon. Of course there will be the same, that first of all the high concentration, first of all, the cell will observe that there is low concentration of glucose, so it will increase the glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. So the gluconeogenesis increases the amino acid uptake, that is enter into the cell and convert into the glucagon and its function. And this is the summary of how the glucagon work inside the cell. But you just remember that glucagon has the ability to activate the adenylate cyclase, then adenylate cyclase then activate the CAMP, and when the CAMP dependent protein kinase is activated, what will happen? Phosphorylase kinase will be activated to phosphorylase kinase in the presence of calmodulin phosphorylase, and then this phosphorylase kinase, which is now activated, convert the glycogen phosphorylase into glycogen phosphorylase active. Now this glycogen phosphorylase convert the glycogen into glucose 1p, and then finally it will form the glucose. Basically, glucagon want to increase the glucose concentration in the blood. So this is whole cycle taking place. Other effects of glucagon: activate the adipose cell lipase and inhibit the storage of triglycerides in the liver, making fatty acids available in the blood to be used by other tissues. So the glucagon has many effects. Blood glucose concentration. In both the cases, insulin and glucagon, the blood glucose concentration is the most important factor, and increased blood glucose concentration decrease glucagon secretion, and increased amino acids stimulate glucagon secretion. Exercise stimulate glucagon secretion. No, this is the whole summary that we have already discussed. How glucose is regulated inside the body with the help of insulin and glucagon. If you are talking about the diabetes mellitus, it is the syndrome of impaired carbohydrate, protein and fats, but most of the time it is famous as the disease of sugar or sweet. In the diabetic patients, they observe polyuria, polydysbia and polyphagia. If we compare the type 1, type 2, we find out insulin type 1 dependent. Type 1 is the insulin dependent, that these patients require insulin injection to regulate the blood glucose, and type 2 is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, because they can manage through diet and lifestyle and maybe some drugs, but they do not need insulin at the if the sugar level is under control. So these are the main differences. You can have a look on this. Type 1 diabetes usually occur during the childhood. Type 2 diabetes usually occur during the adulthood. Type 1 body does not produce sufficient insulin. Type 2 body does not respond to insulin production. Means in type 2 insulin is produced but body is not responding. Type 1 caused by destruction of beta cells, autoimmune, and type 2 is caused by down regulation of insulin receptors. Type 1 require insulin injection and type 2 do not require insulin requisition. Metabolic abnormalities in the diabetes: increased level of keto acids, acetoacetic acid and beta hydroxybutyric acid due to shift of fat metabolism. Excess fat utilization in the liver causes large amount of cholesterol to be released into the plasma and deposition in the arterial walls. This is called arteriosclerosis. So this is about the glucagon. This is about the glucagon and insulin secretion and how they take part in the regulation of macromolecules or metabolism. Thank you so much.